Hello everybody out there on the interwebs. Today I wanted to show you a little thing that I think is probably one of the most useful tools in all of my 3D printing arsenal. Now, I want to do a little preface as to say that I am aware of better tools for this that also include thermal controls, voltage controls, and a whole slew of other things that are super useful when you're playing with something this hot. And I'm gonna move my hand away because that's actually hot right now. I preheated it before recording. This is a little $20 multi-tool from Chicago Electric. I got it at Harbor Freight. It's a 5-in-1 hobby wood burner. Now, it's not just a wood burner. It comes with soldering tips so that you can solder things, different size soldering tips. It comes with a little X-Acto kit, and that's actually kind of hot. I didn't let that cool off enough. I was using it just a little bit ago. It comes with several different sized and shaped heads for wood burning, but of course I'm not using it for wood burning because this is a 3D printing video. The bit that I currently love the most is this bit right here, because it's a really thick and stubby bit, but it has great flat sides on it, so it allows for a lot of versatility in what it is you do. But there's a lot of bits that the kit comes with that are super useful for really small detail work. And the reason I'm making this video is recently I had made a handful of these Anubis chess pieces. I got a real nice marble chess set, and I never could find chess pieces that I liked. And one of the ears right up here broke off while I was trying to take off the supports. Now, in a lot of cases, people will grab like super glue or something of the like to try putting it on there, but I don't personally like using super glue because super glue globs on it and then it dries and becomes kind of white and flaky, so it becomes really clear that you've put something on there, and it makes it really ugly. So what I did was, I didn't use this one in particular. I actually used this wood burner, which I don't even know if you can get these wood burners anymore. I got this as a child, it came with a wood burning kit toy set that children used to have, back when children were allowed to play with things that could potentially disfigure them for the rest of their life. But I used this, and these came with slightly different heads on them. But I used the very tip of this to ever so gently. Like an idiot, I did this. Please don't do what I did, because I'm not safe in what I do. I held the ear together like this, and I just barely touched this and created a weld. This does a couple different things. One, it salvages the print. It saves the print completely, and it smooths the ripples in your lines. Say you have a print that you either have slight over extrusion or slight under extrusion. You'll have little holes in your print or little bumps on your print. You can use that to smooth it out by just barely touching it, and you can take a print that's either a potential fail and repair it and make it not a fail anymore, or you can take a print that has slight imperfections, but it's close enough that you don't want it counted as a fail. You can take this and smooth it over just a little bit. On this one particular, it gets really hot. I'm genuinely not sure how hot it gets, but it's hot enough to go through PLA really fast. Not to stress the metaphor, but it's quite like a hot knife through plasticky butter. I actually don't want to mess with these right now because I'm currently working on them, but I went and dug an old print out of my crap box. That this print was a massive failure. I was testing out some settings in Cura, and the settings failed miserably. But since it's a failed print, I can do whatever I want with it for testing. The handle right here is broke off. This just shows an example. What you can do is you can take the handle, try to fit it back in place wherever it is you're wanting to put it. Take your wood burner and just gently, very gently. Hang on, let me see if I can get a better angle at this. Very gently touch it. Go across it real quick just barely touching it each time you do it, because these burn so hot that it can go through PLA really quick, so you just barely want to touch it. And then you'll create this little bit of, you're melting the layers together. And I do want to warn you that when you're doing this, the surface area around it will become real pliable and rubbery. So you got to be real careful when you're moving it around, because it can just fall apart or deform. But once it dries and becomes even stronger than ever, because now where you would have 7 individual circular layers just laying on top of each other, it creates a significantly more amount of surface area that is welded together. And you see, in the amount of time that it took me to talk about that, it's already dried enough that it's not coming apart. So now I can pick it up like this, take the iron, just barely touch it, rub across, use layers to flatten it out. You don't have to stay in one direction. You can use the layers, go across like that, just barely touching it. Another good combination to do with this is if you have a 3D pen, you can use the 3D pen to actually add some filament on top of the filament you're trying to alter. That way you actually don't have to rely so much on only your wall thickness to provide the amount of filament that you have. So you can just touch, 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 touch. I can see that the gaps are starting to close up there. I'm actually kind of messing this up pretty bad because I've tried doing this video 2 or 3 times, so it looks terrible. Believe me, it doesn't look... Once you get decent at this, it doesn't look as terrible as I'm horrifyingly trying to show you, but all I gotta do is touch, 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 just seconds at a time, and don't try not to stay in the same area for too long, because the heat is, again, like I said, melting the area around it, so it's making the surface area where you're trying to work a lot more pliable, and the bit actually wants to go through the object. I'll actually probably just show you that here in a second. I'll burn through this for a minute. I actually don't care about this. And you see, in the amount of time it took me to say that, it's dried enough now. It's not coming apart, not even cracking. Now, just to show you how dangerous it is, take the bit, goes through it in just a second. Now, the cool thing is it's actually so hot that almost none of the PLA sticks to the bit. So post-usage cleaning is really, really simple. Another thing that you can use for this is, for example, with this print, you see that little hole right there that was supposed to be for like a keychain? You could use the soldering iron tips to go through that and widen the hole out if it didn't fit quite right. And you see where you got like a lot of layer separation on the top. Let me point it right here. A lot of top layer separation there. Same thing. Just take your bit. Of course, top layer separation is a lot more forgiving with what you're doing. Just gently rubbing across there, and you can put all of it together. Okay. Is it perfect? No. But with a little bit of primer and paint, what would have been an absolute 100% fail can be salvaged. Now, this one can't because I had the infill way too low on the test, and it's just a complete piece of crap. But especially when you're doing super, super detailed work, like this Anubis, you just barely touch it. You literally cannot be too careful when you're doing this. If you got real bad, if you got real bad, like when you're doing when you're breaking off the supports, you'll see it sometimes the underneath of the print isn't good. Just touch, touch, stressing. You cannot be too gentle doing this, because you can always touch it again. Shut up, I can hear you laughing. But you can, once you go through it and just say you accidentally cut off the nose or something, that takes way more time than it's worth investing to repair something that you've over melted. So you can repair little imperfections, you can weld stuff together. This is probably the most and again, like I was saying earlier, you got soldering tip, and you got a handful of other usages that make this tool not just a one-trick pony. It makes it super versatile, and I love it to death. For a $20 tool that you can probably catch on sale and other things, just one of the most wonderful tools I have ever used. Now, I got a couple with like external thermal controls, but those get a lot more expensive really, really fast. And I got this as like a backup, and I've been loving it ever since because it takes no time for it to heat up, and it's super versatile. And I just wanted to show that. If you have any suggestions for something that I may have missed or something that you want to see me try doing, please, I love criticism. Tell me I'm an idiot. I don't care. Tell me if something I said or I'm doing you think is wrong. And, hey, there's nothing wrong with admitting that you're wrong. Especially when you mess up prints like this. This should have been very simple. This should not have been messed up like this. I am ashamed of that piece. And I would have never shown that if it wasn't for an example. Thank you.